Well, Bud grew up in San Anselmo. He lived on Austin Avenue. He and I were in kindergarten together, so that goes way back, and we've always been good friends. And Bud, he grew up. He learned the plumbing trade, and then he went to work for the sanitary district. And of course, he was a volunteer fireman, and eventually he came into the department as a fireman. And he was on the job, maybe 6 months, and he had a heart attack. And in those days, we didn't have any sick leave. So we all chipped in and we worked his shifts for him for, I think, about 4 months, so he could get his check. Anyway, and then he came back on the job, and I don't know how many years he was. He had another heart attack, so he retired. And he went to the islands. He had a sister living over there, so he went over to live with her, and he's been there ever since. A year or two ago, he told me he never had any wanted to come back here again. But now I'm talking with him, and his friends over there are disappearing. So, but he sounds just like he did 40 years ago, and he's got that oomph and go. He's only 6 months. He's 6 months or 7 months younger than I am. So I mean, he's no kid. But when I talk to him on the phone, he's just as lively as can be, and the nicest person. He lived where the old Isabel Cook School, right near there. But you get a fire call, he'd be there. And I'll say one thing, on a grass fire or something, and you tell him, I want that flank, check that flank, I want it out. You didn't have to go back. It was out. But Chester had BO or something, body odor. And the fellows, they just couldn't stand him. But I'll say one thing, as a fireman, he didn't have too much moxie, but you show him something or tell him what to do, you never had to tell him again. He remembered it, and he did it. He was good. Good that way. Yeah, he was quite a character. Well, that was the day that San Rafael San Rafael Hill was on fire. I think they lost a house or two up in the hill somewhere there. And we had 2 units from San Anselmo on that fire. So then at, I don't know, say 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was out and I get this call, a fire in the Sorich Ranch. Well, I happened to be nearby, and I would say within 2 minutes after I got the call, I was on the scene. And I saw it came out 3 different ways. Big, 3 different fires started. So you could see these big, I can't say the words now, sailing through the air. So I called in to our dispatcher, and I told her to get all the equipment she could, because in those days, the communications, with that other fire going on, I didn't know what was available. Otherwise, you just call, you want this department or that department. But so she called, as I would say, I know it was within 3 minutes because she logged it. And so I think I had 2 units, and there was 3 fires. So we worked that thing, And there was oh, I can't say the word.
Embers?
Yeah.
Embers?
Yes, embers. You could see them. It was windy. The wind was coming out of the east, and it was windy, and you could see them. And they started a lot of roof fires through the neighborhoods. And as I say in the beginning, we didn't know which way to go. I mean, which one to take. Anyway, now Moose, remember Moose, the water company? He tells me, and I don't believe him, that one landed on Bald Hill and he put it out. But that was just Moose talking. But I do have, maybe a half a mile away, we had a grass fire. Over a half a mile from that. So we had the fire just about out, and I was talking with, what was the chief of the county fire department? And we thought we had it. Well, at Storage Ranch, that was a corporation yard too. The Parks Department had this huge pile of chippings. Well, the fire got into that with the wind, and then it was all over again. So that thing went, and it did burn one home. Lost one home, it was a county area, but we did lose the one. But the rest, I mean, we were very fortunate, very fortunate. After I got out of the service, I met my wife. She was from Ohio, and she had come out here. Some girlfriend was a nurse at Hamilton, and she was telling her, looking for a job, and she got a job at Ross Hospital. She was a surgical nurse. She had been in the service. She had been in France for a year or so, or more, and a surgical nurse. So somehow, on a blind date, I met her, and we got married in 1947.
What was her name?
Mabel. And we had 2 daughters, and we had a good life. I was so fortunate to find her. I don't know what would have happened to me if I hadn't got her. She kept a little finger on me. and anyway, we had a good life together, and she passed away about almost 12 years now. I've been alone. I have a daughter, Candace. She's the oldest. She lives in Santa Cruz, and she worked for many years for Hewlett Packard, and she got bought out, and since then, things have, in the last year or two, things have gone bad. She's been out of work now for over a year. Does a little bit here and a little bit there. Then I have another daughter, Joan, that lives in San Anselmo. She works in the Bank of America there in town. She's been there 40 years, I think, in that one bank. And she works 3 days a week. And she's close to my home. She lives within a mile, and she's very good for me. I mean, I don't know what I'd do without her. Because being alone, that's the hard. When you're getting old, that's the hard part. When you want a pill or something at 2 o'clock in the morning, or you need anything, you know who gets it. You get up and get it yourself. But I've been very fortunate in my family. 2 good girls. My wife left. She trained them right. Let's put it that way.
Do you have grandchildren?
I have, yes. Well, Joan has 2, a boy and a girl. And the girl She's in Merced. She's a biologist. She works for the out in the woods, counting. Oh, she was sent to Barstow on one job to count turtles for the government before they took over a certain piece of land. That's the kind of work, I mean, you know, what do they call it, botany or biology.
What's her name?
Her name is Gina. Then I have a grandson. He's a couple of years younger. He works here in Nevada for some machine company. He's a machinist.
What's his name?
His name, Christopher Radivi. Anyway, he was. We all got together Thanksgiving for lunch, dinner, and he was telling me that the boss made him manager of his shop. He's got about 8 people, and of course a machinist. I worked with a machinist, Al Colombo, on the job, and he had a lathe, you know, and did this. My grandson, it's all up here. You put it in the computer. And he tells me that the machines that they have somewhere here in Nevada, it costs $250,000, $300,000. But he says, of course, he has to put it into the computer. He says, and then you walk away and it does the work for you. I can't imagine the things that he tells me that he does. He was working on something on this. This is on the side. His couple of doctors got a hold of his boss, and they were working on something to. They put these things into the eardrum, and they're wires. There's 22 wires, he tells me, coming out, and 22 wires. They can't be. Those 22 are just a little tiny thing, you know. And he's worked on that with the doctors, putting it in the computer so they can manufacture it. He did that on the side job. So he must be doing pretty good. We had 2, and I mean, they were out of this world. I do remember coming home from the service, and they had this mask and this hose, and I don't know how many feet of hose, and they used to pump air into. I never used it, but I mean, I remember seeing that because before that we had those canisters, chemical, but you weren't allowed to use them because they cost money to replace them. But the air mask, oh my God, that was really something. And I remember we had them, and we must have had them for about a year. And San Francisco had a big fire in some surplus store, a major fire. And I don't know how many firemen were overcome. They didn't have a mask, didn't have one at that time. But oh my God, those things, they were out of this world. We used to go in, our nose would be just touching the carpet. I'd be crawling in. And Marcucci, he made you go too. You went. You know, that's one thing today, as I say, I've been away for so many years, I don't know what goes on in the fire service. It's just hearsay. But they tell me they have a law now, 2 in and 2 out. Well, I don't see how you could be a fireman and know somebody was in a building and not go in until you get help. I can't. I mean, to me, I just cannot see that. I can't understand. I can't understand the fire service. It's, my God, 2 in and 2 out. We used to go when I was at Fire Station 20. I worked mostly with Al Colombo, and a lot of times he'd put 1.5 inches on me while I go in with the other 1.5 inches. I mean, that was how we worked. I mean, it was normal. It was nothing out of this way. But I don't understand the fire service today. And another thing I don't understand, which you're not asking about, when I first went into the fire service as volunteer, we were changing the hose, standardizing that. They just got through standardizing the 2.5 inch. We worked on the 1.5 inch, and the fire marshal's office would send the things to do it. You know, each department, you train them. I've seen so many times where the before going at different threads. Well, we worked on that, as I say, when I first come in. Then I see here, I'm talking about Marin County, the fire chiefs go to the suction hose. Now, I always thought that the average hydrant was a 4.5 inch outlet. Well, I understand now that they got 4 inch, 4.5 inch, and 5 inch. Now, I don't know, I'm talking about the fire chiefs local that did that. What were they thinking about? Now they got all these extra fittings and, I mean,
What do you think of the fire?
I think they're too big. For the simple reason that the manpower is going down. You had a smaller engine, you could get up more of these driveways and drag that hose. I mean, that's one thing. A lot of places I see, they can't get under the trees. I'm talking about San Anselmo. I know San Anselmo. I can't talk about Nevada or anything, but I know there's places they can't go. Where, as I say, and with the manpower, I think they could do a better job. And today, they have 500 gallons of water. We had 80 gallons, I think, on the first engine. But 500 gallons, you know, you could knock an awful lot of fire with that. If you get in there fast. I mean, I'm not trying to tell firemen what to do, how to do it, but I just can't see the modern. They're not keeping up. They're not keeping up in my estimation. It's taken too long to get water on the fire. In the fire service, the communications I think they've gone too far. I remember we had, this is in the 30s, we had a police officer, trying to think of his name, anyway. He was very interested in radios. As a kid even, growing up, he had a shortwave and all that. Well, he was the one that got San Anselmo the first radios in the county. I should say the police department got them first. And of course, they did have a few dead spots, but it was such an improvement before. Before the police had a red light on top of a Red Hill and another town, and when they wanted to cop, they used to put the light on. I mean, that was, but the radio, I think that was the greatest. So they had that, and then the highway patrol got them, and we did the firemen. We did the broadcasting for the highway patrol and San Anselmo. I'm talking about when it first started. We were right in on it, but as you all know, communications in all these major fires has been the biggest problem. But today, sometimes I wonder, I think it's great, all they have, but like now today we have battalion chiefs. Well, I think the battalion chief should have all that communication, but I don't think the engine. I mean, it's just I think, as I say, the battalion chief, he's running so many units. I don't think this is my opinion. That's all. But the communications, oh my God, they've improved so much. Well, back when I started as a volunteer, we used to go to Sleepy Hollow on grass fires. In those days, there was hardly any homes. In fact, there was just nothing out there but grass fires. And we used to go, and of course the buildings built up. Then in June 1936, they had a fire, and we lost Captain Meager. He was a captain in a lousy grass fire. His line got tangled up in a tree root or something, and we presume he tried to get it back and tried to get it out, and he was overcome. He lost his life there. So then there was I really don't know all the ins and outs, but there was a problem there of San Anselmo being out there over the insurance and stuff. And I cannot find, we have logbooks in the history, that fire is not logged. I just can't understand. But
Which fire? The fire death?
the death, yes, that fire is not logged. Anyway, as time went on, we were going to, we stopped going to fires there for a while, and then we started in again. And the county, once in a while, as the thing built up, they would put a truck out there for the day. They'd leave it out there, and then finally, I'm trying to think back. It got to a point where we wouldn't go anymore out there. So the people out there got together, and they formed their own fire district. And it went on for a couple of years. And so then we started to we were going answering their calls. And I'm a little bit foggy here. Oh, then, as I say, then they made a contract with San Anselmo, and I think the first contract was they paid approximately 22% of our budget, fire budget, and to me, it was the greatest thing for San Anselmo at that time. And then they start working on the fire station, where to put it. So naturally they had quite a few locations. And Sleepy Hollow wanted it in Sleepy Hollow. Well, the town wanted it out because if something happened, So anyway, they finally decided, and they built it where it is now on some type of a lease deal. As I say, I didn't get in on that. It was before my time, the bookwork. Anyway, actually, Sleepy Hollow paid for the station. At that time, the property cost, I think, $12,000, and I think the fire station cost 60-something thousand, without any driveways and, down to. So, but as time went on, they would pay for approximately 25% of the budget, and now it's helped like with Foster's and where I live, helps us an awful lot. We have fire, but within a short distance. So I think it was great for everybody. And when I was working, they were always the district. I could go to the district, and they'd fight for me. They'd help me all the time, and we used to do the contract. They took care of their own water system, by the way, on top. And they were supposed to take care of the hydrants. Well, we took care of the hydrants. We did, all that kind of stuff for them. But they had a secretary that run it, Mr. Ingalls, very nice man. And he and our city manager, Alan Bruce, all they had to do was look at one another, and they were like two banty roosters. They'd start fighting. And it made things so hard on me. I mean, he'd tell me, our manager would tell me, you can't do this out there, you can't do this, you can't do that. And okay. And of course, we did what we'd always done for them. And as I say, they were very helpful. They bought us our first four-wheel drive grass truck. It was a Army pickup, half-ton. It had been down in Barstow. And when we got it, I mean, they bought it and gave it to us for a grass. So anyway, the tires were worn out, but we didn't have money. We didn't have any money, so anyway. They got a tank from somebody that fit in, and I think it held 280 gallons. Then the county gave them reels. They were iron reels. It took 4 men to put them up on top there. Then he got a motor and a pump, high pressure pump, and a gas motor. Now this is a half-ton truck I'm talking about. And no, he wanted that. He showed that to the mayor. Oh, that was the greatest thing in the world. So he's going to run it first, grass fires. Well, I don't know if you know San Anselmo, but going out by the shopping center, and then there's the Red Hill School, or old school, the little hill. You'd have to. It couldn't hardly make the hill there. Oh, I'm telling you, it's a wonder. It's a wonder we didn't all get killed on that thing. But never. He wanted that truck. I don't know. I don't know how many tons it was carrying. And the tires. I mean, if it had tires, you'd have got more. You could have got some traction. Jeez. Oh well. We had a lot of that kind of stuff. Bob was in high school, and I had just come out of the hospital. I had appendicitis, and I had a big hole in my stomach from the war, and they had done a lot of extra work. Anyway, to try to fix things. Anyway, I was in the hospital. Oh, we didn't have sick leave. So I come out of the hospital and I went back to work about 3 weeks before I should have gone back. And anyway, the first day on the scene, naturally I'm on the tailboard. And we get this fire. And we leave the firehouse and look up in the hill, you can see it's gone. In fact, a woman lost her life. And all I'm thinking about, me dragging that hose. I'm worried. Well, going up the hill, here comes this load of high school kids right behind. And Bob happened to be one of them. So we laid the line, and the kids came running up, and I start yelling at them, get a hold of that line and get it up the hill. Well, that line went up the hill so damn fast, I couldn't keep up. I mean, that's one of the things, son. Things were so tight. I remember a new nozzle would come out, and Kenfield would get 6 of them. Well, geez, we couldn't even get one. And I mean, you know, real good stuff. Jeez.
Do you remember what the budget was when you first became chief?
No.
Roughly?
No, I can't remember. I can't remember. Well, of course, you know, like Nevada, I mean, the fire district is a lot different. But when you have to get a piece of that pie, it's tough. It's tough when so many people are getting out of that same pie. That's tough. What used to bother me, and I get on just a couple of fellows' nerves. Sick leave used to bother me. You see, going into the department, not having sick leave, and finally getting those benefits, we appreciated it. But these people that would call in sick and they would be working on building a house somewhere. I mean, I just could not take that. To this day, it bothers me how people take advantage of sick leave. Now, I mean, so as I say, with a few fellows, I wasn't too well liked on account of that. But you see, when I first went into the department, we had the only things on the book I know of was vacation. It was a state law that you had to have, I think, 7 days at that time, every year. That was the only thing we had. But then we finally got sick leave. And then we got uniform allowance. And then within 6 months, the uniforms doubled. And I'd ask the guys, how come? Well, you care, you're not paying for it. Well, I mean, as I say, I've seen these things, what's happened. But that sick leave, I couldn't. We have a bench and we have a plaque. Now, where they're at now, the benches on Butterfield, the city made us take it out downtown. Don't get me going on that. It's a sore spot. But there's a plaque and a bench. But other major, I'm trying to think. I think we had one guy break a leg. Of course, he asked for it. I mean, when he came to work, he was made up his mind he was going to go out on a disability. He never went. I don't think he didn't make the disability. Oh no, you didn't go home. No, we had a fella. I got shrapnel in the hands. He couldn't pull a trigger hardly. And his hands in the cold weather would So I think it was in the beginning of 1945. They came out with they sent one person home out of our company back to the States. That was the first time. Anyway, so we all got together and we said Stark should go because his hands. Right. So he went back to New York. He had 30 days leave. And then we had it all set. He'd go into Staten Island Hospital report. So he did that. He went to the hospital and they said, oh my God, your hands. But they said 5 or 6 operations and we could fix them. So they started in on it, and all of a sudden they found out that his outfit was overseas. They put him on a ship and sent him right back to us.